Joining us now, Democratic Congressman of Pennsylvania, Brendan Boyle, ranking member of the House Budget Committee. So you have a deep understanding of numbers, presumably more than most. But what are the conversations you guys are having? Because we've talked to a number of members of Congress who are coming out of the Republican caucus. What are the conversations you're having on the Democratic side?
Well, it's great to be back with you. We are now, unfortunately, under 10 hours away from a government shutdown, and we are still waiting to hear what exactly House Republicans even want. Can they even reach some sort of an agreement amongst themselves? Let's not forget, the whole reason why we're here is because just a couple days ago, after the announcement was made that we had reached a widespread agreement, the leaders of House Republicans and House Democrats, Senate Republicans and Senate Democrats had all come together after a multi-week negotiation to announce an agreement. And then what happened? Elon Musk took to his own social media platform and started tweeting against it. And suddenly, 5-6 hours later, Speaker Johnson walked away from that bipartisan agreement. So that's why we are here at the last hour, and at this moment, House Republican leadership still has no plan other than if they just return to the bipartisan agreement they walked away from 48 hours ago.
Well, let me ask you about Elon Musk, because we talked to Dusty Johnson, a Republican congressman, in the last hour, and I asked him very specifically, does Elon Musk have a place in these negotiations? And I'm going to read to you exactly what Dusty Johnson said. He said, when you've got somebody who's a brilliant disruptor and innovative, that's a voice we should be willing to hear from. But it's not like we've never been in this position before. So what do you really think the influence of Elon Musk is? And what do you think the chances are that in the next 9-10 hours, something gets done here?
Well, what I would say, based on the evidence of the last 48 to 72 hours, is that Elon Musk is the de facto leader of the Republicans on Capitol Hill, because Speaker Mike Johnson had announced we had reached a bipartisan agreement. Elon Musk took to Twitter, and after 6 to 7 hours of nonstop tweeting against the bipartisan agreement, you had House Republicans flip-flop and then suddenly pull the bill from the floor. Interestingly, Elon Musk blasted this agreement and came out against it a good 6 to 7 hours before we heard from Donald Trump. So the reality is Elon Musk is calling the shots for House Republicans, not Donald Trump, not Mike Johnson.
Well, Donald Trump said today, I don't know if in the chaos that is the Capitol Hill right now, you saw what he said. He said this is a Biden problem to solve. Does President Biden have any role in this? Should he be more involved? What do you make of what the analysis is by the president-elect?
Yeah, I give Donald credit. He is a pretty witty guy, and that's a nice attempt to deflect. The reality is that if House Republican leadership and their members had just kept their word, had they not reneged on an agreement they made, we would have wrapped this up yesterday. I mean, most members on both sides of the aisle were telling their families that we would be home for Christmas by now. And then it was Elon Musk who blew this up. House Republican leadership decided, instead of acting on their own accord, since they're the ones that were actually elected, they instead decided to fold to what Musk wants, and here we are now.
Well, you look, there's a lot of finger pointing here. There have been a lot of Democrats who are calling Elon Musk President Musk. There are a lot of Republicans who are saying that this is on the Democrats' watch. But finger pointing aside, is there any room for real compromise here that you see, and what does that look like?
Yeah, we know what the compromise looks like. It is the compromise that was reached and announced a couple days ago. By the way, that compromise was not easy among Democratic members to agree to. That's why it took a course of weeks and over a month. So the sooner that we get back to the bipartisan agreement that was reached, the better off we will. Let's not forget the lesson of the 2018 shutdown, which was the longest shutdown in American history, happened under Donald Trump's reign. The way that one ended was when Trump finally recognized that what he was asking for was unreasonable, and he dropped his demands and House Republicans dropped their unreasonable demands, and we were able to end that government shutdown. I think we're going to see history repeat itself on this one.
Let me ask you finally, because we've talked a lot over the course of today about the very real-world consequences that would ensue if indeed there is a government shutdown. As you know, there was a prolonged one at the beginning of then President Trump's first term. There will be members of the military who will be asked to defend our country who will not get paid. There will be a lot of essential workers who will be told to come into the office. We saw the last time, for example, with TSA agents and other folks who are charged with making sure that flights go off, that a significant number of them didn't show up. We are now in the busiest. Oh, we have Mike Johnson now. I don't know if you can hang around, but we're going to listen to this.
But I expect that we will be proceeding forward. We will not have a government shutdown, and we will meet our obligations for our farmers who need aid, for the disaster victims all over the country, and for making sure that military and essential services and everyone who relies upon the federal government for a paycheck is paid over the holidays. I'll give you the more details here in just a few moments.
Have you talked to President-elect Trump about this? Have you talked to the President-elect, Mr. Speaker?
I'm going to ask the control room. Did you hear what he said leading up to that control room that led him to say, that's it? So he says we will not have a government shutdown. I don't know if that means that they have come to some sort of decision. So let me go back to that because of the real world implications here. Do you think if some version of what we saw in the beginning comes back that you say was already negotiated, you don't think that's realistic, do you, that that's going to happen? What do you think is realistic here?
You know, I was able to hear the second half of his remarks, and it didn't sound like an announcement as to what exactly they're going to put on the floor. I mean, I'm standing right off the floor. Right now, the doors are closed and locked. So are we going to vote on a CR? Are we going to go back to the original agreement? I mean, we're under 10 hours away, and I don't get the impression, after they just concluded apparently a 2-hour meeting, that House Republicans have any sort of strategy on what they're going to do next. Look, it's a fitting end to this term in Congress. This term began 2 years ago when it took House Republicans a record 4 days and 15 votes just to elect their own then leader, Kevin McCarthy, Speaker, only to then vote him out 9 months later. So this has been a chaotic, chaos-filled congressional term, one of the least productive in American history. And so this is kind of a fitting conclusion to this reign of chaos among my House Republican friends.
There is also one more X factor, and that is we are 5 days from Christmas. A lot of your colleagues have plans with their families and so on. What do you think, if you were a betting man, Congressman, the chances are that this gets resolved and you all get to head home for the holidays?
You know, I have to say, and I do occasionally do some sports betting on my beloved teams. Go Irish tonight. But I will say that I really have no idea. I do fear that if we have a government shutdown, that this could be a longer lasting one into January. So I do think we need to redouble our efforts and do everything we can to avoid a government shutdown.
I have a sister-in-law who lives for the Fighting Irish, so she's right with you there. Good luck, Congressman, and thank you so much for spending so much time with us. Much appreciated.